Okay. Yes, I'm Nick Phillips, as it says there. London Unemployed Strategies is a group that's been funded long term now by Trust for London and with support from the regional TUC. So we do come from a very sort of campaigning base, and our strapline, if you like, has been for a long time a voice for London's unemployed, and that, in essence, is what we're trying to promote through this call for solutions. So to start at the end, if you like, I do want to highlight, you've got the sheets on your chairs, I think, also the online form. In that, it does mention there is a deadline of 31st of July for your submissions, and I'm not sure how flexible that will be, but we are quite keen on trying to stick to that. There's also a question which I think the Commission has to discuss, but there is, you may be aware, an interim period where the Labour Party is having a major review of social security, which actually ends the 30th of June. So it may be we consider putting in a submission to that. It could be quite important. So if you can get things in by the 30th of June, then so much the better. But please don't rush your own consultation process. We do want to make sure that people, if they are putting forward things on behalf of a group, do consult their own users, clients, colleagues first. There's too much of people putting themselves forward on behalf of the group without consultation. So make sure your own consultation process is thorough if you are doing a group submission. But of course, individuals can make their own submissions, so you do have those options. But either way, the ultimate aim is, as Eleanor suggested, is to get together a form of white paper, which means we'll have experts helping us to put forward in a format which is suitable for Houses of Parliament, the Lords and Ladies and MPs, so it's there ready for them in a comprehensive form to actually put forward to fast track as legislation. So that's what we're trying to do with a combination of responses from claimants with lived experience. What I'll do then is I'll move on to the page one of the form. What we try to do is to make it as accessible as possible. I mean, what we recognise is that people have all different means of communicating most effectively and most comfortably for them. So we try to cover as many of those ways of communicating as we can to make sure it is as inclusive as possible. To begin with, interwoven through this process, we've got a variety of poetry and drama workshops and performances, some of which you've seen today. So that is a method of communication which is as important as any other. So we've woven those into the process. We've also got a roadshow going through the United Kingdom of one-off events in various parts of the UK, which I think Michael and Kate have been steering. And more of that will be on the website for information. But the core of the form is what you have on your chairs now. It's you've got hard copies there, and we've also got the soft copy or the online copies here. And what we've tried to do here, maybe Kate, play a little clip. With each question, there's an accompanying video which is both signed and has subtitles. So we've done what we can to accommodate that means of communication. And each question has an appropriate clip alongside it. We've also got a fallback position, if you like. Clearly it's very difficult with the resources to cover everyone's best method of communicating. But if there are people that you know, or you indeed yourselves have issues with any of these formats, then there is an email which says if there are problems, write to Michael Alton, our secretary, and he will do his best to accommodate other forms of communication that you might wish to use. But the form itself is in English, which itself raises questions about other languages. But we'll do what we can about that if you need us to. But in the English format, it is in an easy read version as well, which we've taken the trouble to actually convey in as simple form as we can in terms of the English language at least. So you've seen an example there. What is the actual content of it? Well, it breaks down into two parts largely. The first part is a fairly detailed series of questions around key elements of the current welfare system, and these questions themselves have been formed out of discussion from claimants with lived experience, so they are directly born out of people's own experiences, and they will cover issues such as universal credit and questions about whether people feel it should be scrapped or reformed, still a live issue. Things around, and this is what comes up in many of the groups that we're involved in, I'm sure, how people are assessed in terms of sickness and disability. Again, that's been a huge issue, if anything more so than universal credit over the last few years. So questions around that issue will be addressed, and we're asking for solutions or alternatives to the current methods. And also things like sanctions, of course, because again, this is not a foregone conclusion that we shouldn't have them. There are still many in the campaigning field that say they should be proportionate. What does that mean? So those are the sorts of questions that we will be asking as well, and asking for solutions and alternatives to those issues. So that's part one of the survey, or the call for solutions. The second part is the concluding part, which is around underlying principles. And again, I think we've got examples up here, and those also have been the product of discussion between some paid professionals, but also with significant claimants' input into what should be the underpinning principles around a decent welfare system. And we're asking then, how could those, A, do you agree with those principles, and B, how do you think they could be put into practice if indeed you do agree with them? And I think the key here is our drive towards a more claimant-centred system. It sounds like an obvious thing to say, but it's clearly not in evidence at the moment. So to have the claimant at the heart of both how the system is devised and how it operates is a key issue there. I think you find that even in the NHS, its own constitution has some obligation to consult with its users, so you do get some level of consultation with users in the NHS, but the DWP has no such obligation to consult its clients, probably because, as we will probably suspect, it sees those people as more undeserving than, say, patients. So that's a real problem that we want to try and to tackle. So claimants should really be at the heart of how the system is devised and how it operates, and that's the sort of issues we want to foster discussion around. And what we want to do, of course, is to go with claimants, so we take them beyond just purely being consulted to actually having, if you like, negotiating rights within the system. So as we often know, as people who are experienced here, when you say we're being consulted about something, it doesn't mean that once you've been consulted, anyone's going to do anything about what you've actually told them. So, of course, the claimant-centred approach means claimants are consulted, but also then, when they listen to what they say counts and actually affects change within the system. So those are sorts of key issues that we want to address through this call for solutions. We can take more questions, I think, in the coming session. But I'll finish with another underlying principle, which is also a London Unemployed Strategies slogan, if you like, which is we need more help and less harassment for claimants. And I think those are the underpinning values which you hope call for solutions. And I hope you'll all contribute and involve those you live and work with as much as possible in what is very much a pioneering exercise. Thanks.